News is very proud to host. Every year we're reminded of some of the bad news out there, like the fact that reading scores for the SATs just hit a 40-year low. But we also get to hear what's new, including how they are teaching a virtue that's been around a long time and coming back now in a big way. Amid all the talk about education right now, standardized testing, teacher performance, the newest and maybe the simplest new idea involves taking something most of these kids already have, turning around and teaching it right back to them. And while it means a lot of things, the shorthand for it is a word we all know that means just what you think it means. What is grit?
Grit is the combination of persistence and resilience. So grit is being able to keep going through challenges and struggles, being able to work with focus independently. So that's the persistence part. The resilience, when you get knocked down, you bounce back up. So
these two men are among the primary drivers of the grit movement. Dave Levin is co-founder of KIPP, a network of innovative public charter schools serving low-income city kids. Dominic Randolph is the headmaster of a very different institution, Riverdale Country School, a prestigious private school in a leafier section of New York City. These two leaders have joined together to develop what they call character education. Their message is character skills are crucial. They're just as important for kids from tough backgrounds as they are kids from well-off families. But fair warning to the kids and their parents who've been a part of the so-called trophy generation. This new movement might come as a big shock in a society that has valued self-esteem above all else.
You can do it.
You can do anything.
One that's been perfectly skewered by SNL.
On the contrary, my self-esteem is through the roof because no one has ever been honest with me about how mediocre I am.
And what if someone were to be honest with you?
I would immediately cry.
And that's accepted now.
When I started teaching in the 90s, there was this sense that everyone had to be rewarded, where people didn't want kids to experience failure. When you enter the work world, it isn't all, blue ribbons, and it isn't all everyone is equal.
And I think, we as a country, as a world, face enormous challenges. And we just have to make sure that kids and adults have the type of capacities in order to face up to those challenges.
How do you get kids actually to not only experience failure, but recognize that those hard moments are the keys to future success?
I always say I don't trust anyone who hasn't failed.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right.
You think, and the kids we met here at KIPP already get it? Or do you think it's important to fail?
It's important. It is.
Why? Why is it important to fail?
It's important to fail because, we all know that we're not perfect. We make mistakes every single day, and that's something that we grow from that. If we were all born perfect and we never made mistakes, we wouldn't be able to experience pain and struggle leads to success.
I will keep this up.
In most KIPP classrooms, they found a way to work grit into the lesson plan. The idea of struggle and character and determination. In this case, back in the Depression era.
Why is the Great Depression one of the ultimate grit events in American history?
And down the hall in the science classroom, the normally giggle-inducing topic of human reproduction in a room full of 13-year-olds turns into a lesson in self-control.
Even though that there might be some funny stuff here, being able to control the laughing and bringing it back is just as important as any other skill you might ever have in your life.
Self-control, which is often in really short supply in our society, has been proven to be a marker for success later in life. Psychologists famously proved that years ago in the hidden camera marshmallow test, one of which is shown here. Kids are offered the temptation, the instant gratification of a marshmallow, while they're promised seconds if they can just hold off from ringing the bell.
If you can stay here and wait for me to come back without eating the marshmallows, then you get 2 marshmallows.
The kids who were able to marshal their marshmallow self-control and hold out for seconds would later score about 200 points higher on their SATs than the kids who gave in. It might just be a marshmallow, it's also a bit of grit in action.
Interesting thing about the marshmallow test, the kids who succeeded at not eating the marshmallows didn't sit there and stare at the marshmallow. They found something to do to distract themselves.
One little girl in the test uses her one arm to fight off the other. She's just 4 years old, and knowing that makes you wonder if she was just born with that kind of self-control. Can it be taught? Is it something, is grit, character, self-control, is that hardwired? Or can you teach it into these kids?
You can definitely teach character. You can definitely teach the behaviors that go along with each of the strengths.
At KIPP, they've taken it a step further. The kids here get graded on character. You've heard of a GPA. These kids all receive a CPA, a character point average. And we were there when 14-year-old Jalissa learned her results. What needs improvement?
Self-control. Sometimes I'll get upset. Other times I'll be able to control myself and be like, okay, I know why they're doing this.
Your shoulder, like on your shoulder.
13-year-old Taya was told she needs to work on her attitude. What's wrong with your attitude?
I don't like people telling me what to do, so I get like defensive, and yeah, it's just, it goes all downhill from there.
School is a bad place to not be to be told what to.
Yeah, but it's just, I don't know, it's just a reaction.
She proudly reports her CPA has improved.
They teach us here to like how to act, like our manners, our like how to act towards people, like because if you don't treat people with respect, then they won't give it back to you. So it's like that's just how life is.
Let's be really provocative. You educate rich kids, you educate poor kids. Obviously around the margins, that can't be a blanket statement, but it's pretty true. What's going to be the difference if I hire one of each after you as educators are done with them?
When you think about strengths like grit, like overcoming failure, right? The lack of financial resources, it sets up a series of roadblocks from a very young age. I think, life circumstances also give kids an opportunity, force kids to develop character.
You can't create failures for Riverdale kids that are going to be character lessons. So what do you do if your kids have just had it better?
Right. Yeah, I think for the kids who are very privileged, I think that you can actually bake into a school culture moments where they do fail, where they do find out that it's not as easy. And I think
these two educators hope to provide a model for every school and every child all across the country. They also realize they're up against a lot of parents who don't want to hear a lot of talk about failure and much prefer A's and B's for their kids over the grittier reality of C's and D's.
And you have the average grade, in America is around a B. I think that's not giving people clear feedback, and it's not allowing them to say, okay, it's all right, you got a D, now what are you going to do about it? And that's what they're going to do about it is actually the really interesting thing. We don't have enough opportunity in, I think, both of our schools to allow that to happen.
There's probably families in Oak Park, Illinois watching who say, this is all great, back to SAT prep for my kid because he's going to Dartmouth. Do you ever see a day where a character will be ranked?
Yes, CPA next to GPA, that's,
right.
Yes.
Both men say that grit, character education, has raised academic performance. While there's no data to back that up, the proof, they say, can be heard in the voices of the students. Starting with Taya, who very proudly was able to work her way up to the first chair in the school orchestra.
It feels good to be first chair. People are looking at you and you have to lead them in a good way. So
how many first chairs are there?
Yeah.
There's just one, right? Only one person can have that role. So that means that you worked hard for something. Our thanks to everybody involved, especially the educators and the kids at KIPP Academy and Riverdale Country School. Up next, as we continue tonight, behind the scenes at the Daily